On Monday night, Sidney Crosby continued to cement his place amongst the immortals in the sport of hockey.
You're Locked On Penguins, your daily podcast on the Pittsburgh Penguins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello and welcome back, Penguins fans, to another edition of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Patrick Damp. You can follow me on Twitter at synonym for wet, joined as always by the one and only Hunter Hodes. You can follow him on Twitter at Hunter Hodes. You can follow the show's account at LO_Penguins. We thank you for making this your first listen or watch of the day because we're your team every day, and you can find us on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. Before we get started, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 if your bet wins. Visit fanduel.com/lockedon to get started. So we have to get right into it. Sidney Crosby once again makes history and continues to cement his legacy as one of the all-time great players in the history of not just the National Hockey League, but all of the sport. With a 3-point night last night, 2 goals and 1 assist, he officially ties Wayne Gretzky's once seemingly untouchable record of 19 consecutive point-per-game seasons. It was a marvelous performance by the Pittsburgh Penguins last night, right on the back of their captain, Sidney Crosby, who refuses to let this team die, who refuses to let this team go quietly into the night. And it was another example for us as Penguins fans to really see how spoiled we have been for the last 20 years to not just have this guy as the Penguins' cornerstone player, but representing the franchise, representing the city in everything that he has done, both on the ice and off the ice. And you could just feel it last night. 18 seconds in, he gets an assist on Brian Rust's goal. And then later on, he gets another classic vintage Sidney Crosby deflection goal. And then to cap it all off, he gets the empty net goal, which was so classic Sidney Crosby. It wasn't him basket hanging and fleeing the zone early, trying to get that easy one. He blocks a shot with just seconds left in the game, takes the puck through the neutral zone and buries it into the empty net, sealing a very surprising win for the Penguins against the New York Rangers. And he continues to do this. At age 36, is he as dominant as he once was? No. But is he still top 10 in the league? I would certainly argue he is. So, Hunter, aside from it being a huge win, it was a historic night for the captain and for the Pittsburgh Penguins.
He is such a great model of consistency in the NHL. You know what you're going to get from him on a nightly basis, and he hardly ever disappoints. Sure, he had a couple of rough games after Jake Gensel got traded, but after that, it was just like ho-hum. He got right back to doing what he was doing after a couple of meh games when he just lost his star winger. And he is continuing to try and sneak this team into the playoffs. I know it is still considered a long shot for this team to get in. We'll touch more on that later on in this episode with all of a sudden the Devils game being important. And if they win that game, the Capitals game on Thursday could be even more important. That's later on. But with the way Sid is playing, it just irks me that this team is where it is in the standings right now, because this has been a marvelous season for Sidney Crosby. 82 points overall. If this power play had been average, I think, for most of this season, he'd be over 90 and would potentially be cracking 100 at this point. That is how good Crosby has been on a nightly basis. 19 straight point per game seasons. I mean, it's crazy to even say it out loud with how good he's been throughout his career. And I think he's going to break the record next year. I know he's going to be another year older, but if you are able to make good changes around this team for next season and bring in some younger pieces that can help him in the core, I say he breaks it next year and will hold the all-time record after next season. But he continues to get record after record. He's now 3 assists away from 1,000 for his career, 6 points away from tying Phil Esposito for top 10 all time among NHL scorers. And at this point, I don't know if he's even number 5 all time in terms of the best players in NHL history. I think we can bump him up to number 4. I know that might irk some people, especially some of the older hockey fans, but I think at this point, he's number 4, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely put him top 5 all time without a doubt in my mind. And it's what you said is the consistency of it all, because we have seen it even with some of the all-time greats and some of the best of all time, to where they have some down seasons, or as they start getting toward the end of their career, they really start to trail off. And I don't want to say that they're a shell of who they were in their prime, because that's unfair. You know, just like I say it all the time, that Father Time is the only undefeated entity in professional sports. It comes for everybody. But you look at the fact that he's still doing this. He's still this consistent night after night. And yeah, it's not 2010 or even 2015 Sidney Crosby, but he still has these moments in these games, in these stretches, where you remind yourself how good he really is. But enough about Crosby for now. We were going to have an entire offseason and probably the rest of this season to talk about the greatness and the milestones that he's chasing. Huge win last night for the Penguins, 5-2 over the New York Rangers. And the most impressive thing to me last night was the Penguins' defensive game. Because the Rangers had a ton of zone time last night. They had the edge when you look at the analytics in shot attempts and possession, but the Penguins, for the most part, kept them to the outside. Their high danger chances were very minimal. And Alex Nedeljkovic, getting called into action at the last minute because Tristan Jarry gets sick, played a marvelous game.
Pat stole a little bit of my thunder there, because that's kind of where I was going a little bit as well. My biggest takeaway from this win, outside of Sidney Crosby doing his thing, was that this is a classic boring win for the Penguins, and that's totally okay. Sure, the Penguins didn't have a lot of offensive zone time. The Rangers had the puck for most of the game, especially in the first 2 periods, but the Penguins did a great job getting their sticks and bodies into shooting lanes and blocking a lot of shots. I know it sounds so cliche to say, but the Penguins' ability to block a lot of shots in this one was great to see. And that was very evident if you watch that second period penalty kill at the very end of the period. The Penguins are up 2-0. You're trying to at least hold that 2-goal lead heading into the second intermission. And the Penguins made Alex Nedeljkovic's job so much easier on that PK, because whether it was Chris Letang, Marcus Pettersson, Brian Russ, whoever else was on the penalty kill at that time, they were all sacrificing their bodies, getting into shooting lanes so that Nedeljkovic doesn't have to see so many pucks. And that was also leading to easy clears for the Penguins. That was a textbook, beautiful penalty kill by the Penguins. And that was also the same at 5-on-5 overall. At even strength, the Rangers only had 4 high danger chances, and they had 1.35 expected goals at 5-on-5. Tremendous job defensively by the Penguins to win this game. And that type of boring win, that has to be the blueprint overall. We've seen them do that in plenty of other wins so far this season. I hate when they go away from it, but that was, again, a classic boring win. And when they also had chances to score, they made sure to finish them, which I can't even believe I'm saying, because this team has been so bad at finishing for most of the season. But I really like a lot about that win. Sure, were they the better team for most of this game? No, they weren't. But it didn't matter because of the Penguins' ability to defend well in their own zone and get a great night from their top line, notably Sidney Crosby. 18 seconds in, you knew it was going to be a special night when Sid was doing his thing in the offensive zone, takes a shot, leads to Brian Russ goal. And then that deflection goal was superb as well. I honestly found it hilarious that Peter Laviolette continued to try to ice the Trouba-Miller pairing against Sid. Sid was just cooking Trouba all night long. I don't know why Peter Laviolette thinks that's a good matchup for him. Sid will take that any day of the week and will keep cooking Trouba until the end of time. So again, I don't really know what he was thinking there. The eye test showed that Trouba and Miller really struggled against Sid, and the numbers really back that up. They were two of the worst skaters on the ice for the Rangers last night.
They really were, and that's a coaching blunder by Laviolette, who, as much as he does annoy me as a Penguins fan, I can't deny how good of a hockey coach he is. And you would figure a guy with that much experience and success, frankly, in the National Hockey League would understand that, okay, I know that I put my trust in these two. They're my top pairing. I ride them to take the big minutes and the big moments. And it's not even, as much as I know fellow Penguins fans are going to hate this from me, Trouba and Miller are a good defensive pairing. They are very good at what they do, but that night they just didn't have it. And if you're a coach of Laviolette's stature, you have to acknowledge that and go, okay, listen, this is not an indictment on you two. Tonight, you just don't have it. I'm going to match you up with somebody else, and I'm going to try to mitigate the rest of the Penguins roster, because let's be honest here. Outside of that first line, the Penguins weren't that good last night. And it was pretty much that first line that kept everything rolling last night. The other three lines were in survival mode for most of the night. It was minimize the chances that the New York Rangers get and try to capitalize on mistakes. Meanwhile, the Crosby line was taking it to them all night long. And usually, if you're a coach like Laviolette, you should acknowledge that and try to flip the tables on the Penguins, which they didn't. Finally, the last thing I want to add about this game is we talked about it Monday, about how this team all season has been mentally fragile. The minute things go against them, they seem to fall apart. And when Roslovic scored, you kind of winced and thought, oh no, here we go. We've seen this before, but they tightened up. They continued to play very well defensively, and they closed this one out in what is a very hostile environment in MSG.
Oh, that crowd was into it last night. Even though the Penguins were up 3-0, they were taking the crowd out of it a little bit. They were still getting fired up every time the Rangers had the puck. And I even tweeted after Roslovic scored, I would be stunned if the Penguins won that game in regulation. Well, I was surprised because the Penguins were able to play pretty solid defense. After that goal, you get that empty netter from Brian Rust before Sidney Crosby did his thing with blocking the shot and then turning that one into an empty net goal. It was good to see them finally close out a game in that situation when it looks like they are going to blow yet another lead. And I do want to push back a little bit on your Miller-Trouba comment. That pairing has honestly not been that good for the Rangers this season. They've played over 400 minutes together at even strength. They're below water in shot attempts, 19 goals for, 23 goals against. They're below water in high danger chances against, high danger goals for. I think it's a pairing that actually needs to be split up for the Rangers if they want to go far, to be honest. And whether that's putting Fox with one of those two, Lindgren with one of those two, whatever, I don't think that pairing really works. And you saw it on full display in that game on Monday night. But even outside of all that, I also liked Emil Bemstrom's game coming back into the lineup. He cooked Shesterkin on that breakaway, fired that top cheese over him. I know he's struggled quite a bit since his first game with the Penguins, but it was nice seeing him come in for Poulin, who I think has been okay in his short sample size, but he wasn't wowing me like maybe I thought he was going to, at least a little bit more. I didn't expect him to light the world on fire, but I wanted to see a little bit more from Poulin, and I haven't been getting that. So that's why I wasn't too upset when Poulin came out of the lineup for Bemstrom on Monday night.
For sure. Poulin had to do a little bit more, and he just kind of had, and I said it to you before the game when the lineups came out, it's not that I thought he was going to be great, but I really couldn't point to anything specific he did in his limited time, but that's a whole different discussion for a different day. Solid win by the Penguins last night, and now tonight offers a huge opportunity for this team to maybe rise up a little bit from the dead and exercise some demons when they go to face off against the New Jersey Devils at the Prudential Center. We are going to preview that game and more right after this, but we have to tell you first about our next sponsor, and that is FanDuel. The sports calendar is loaded, and FanDuel is making it even more exciting to get in on the action. Because right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 you can use to bet the tourney, MLB, NBA, NHL, and so much more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet a big win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. All right, we're back here on the Tuesday edition of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I am Patrick Damp. That is Hunter Hodes. And tonight, all of a sudden, means quite a lot. The Penguins are heading to New Jersey to take on the Devils, a team that they are mired in a 6-game losing streak against. This is a team in the Devils that, despite their struggles this year, are really a struggle for the Pittsburgh Penguins. We have seen it the last couple of seasons. They do not match up well against this team. The young legs, the speed, and even some of the skill of the Devils, which is crazy to say because you never think of speed and skill when you think of the New Jersey Devils, but in the modern era, that's exactly who they've become. And it's just not been a good matchup for the Penguins. And now you put that on top of having a back-to-back. You played the Rangers last night in a very hard-fought emotional win. And now you got to go take on a team that you have been unable to beat going all the way back to last season. And this is a tough one for the Penguins because we're going to find out right now, even though we pretty much know who this Penguins team is, we're going to find out exactly what they are made of tonight when they go to take on the Devils.
Agreed. And this doesn't go back to just last season, Pat. This goes back to the 2021-2022 season. They haven't won in the last 2 seasons against the Devils so far. And you're right. Their speed gives them massive fits. They skate circles around the Penguins virtually every time they play them. And it's a really hard matchup for the Penguins overall. If this were back in 2016 and the 2016 Penguins were playing this version of the Devils, I would obviously favor the Penguins because I think they would be able to skate circles around them. But times have changed and the Penguins have gotten older while the Devils have embraced some more youth. And some of the younger players are some of the best players in the league. What I want to see from the Penguins tonight overall is similar to what I saw from the Rangers game last night, but a little bit more offensive zone time. I want to see them forecheck a bit more, not rely on just one line to win this game against the Devils. And I want to see them defend the way they defended against the Rangers in this game as well. Yeah, I understand you're on the second half of a back-to-back, but travel is not really that big here, right? You're just going across the river to play in Newark. That's not far at all. I know you can factor in New York traffic, but still, compared to flying 2 to 3 hours or even more to another city, and you factor that in, it's not for this game. I still want them to go out there and get a little bit more offensive zone time, which could lead to some more chances and defend a bit harder. And in net, if Tristan Jarry is able to go, I want to see a bounce back from him. He was supposed to start against the Rangers. He got sick. That's what led to Alex Nedeljkovic starting, and he was very good. I know I challenged him on Monday's show to make a couple more saves, and he did just that against the Rangers. But now I'm challenging Jarry. He's had a really awful last month. If he's able to go tonight, I want to see him have a massive bounce back game and get back to the level that we saw him play at during the first half of the season and into January and a little bit into February as well. If he can give them that level of goaltending and if the Penguins can defend the way they defended against the Rangers and they get a little bit more offense outside the top line, I do like their chances of snapping this 6-game losing streak to the Devils. And this is a sneaky big game for the Penguins. You look at the standings right now, my friends. I'm not trying to give you all the hopium over here, but they are 5 points out of a playoff spot yet again. Yeah, I know the Capitals have a game in hand, but they're still 5 points out. If they win this game in regulation against the Devils tonight, and the Capitals lose in regulation to the Buffalo Sabres, the Penguins are all of a sudden 3 points behind the Capitals with a game in Washington looming on Thursday. You win that game on Thursday in regulation, you're all of a sudden 1 point out of a playoff spot. I know that's a lot of things that need to happen. It's still very unlikely that they get in. You and I have written this team off, I would say, quite a bit over the last 3 to 4 weeks, probably going back a little bit more than that. But there is a small opportunity to actually get back into the race and get your season off a little bit of life support. And they have a chance to really do that starting tonight against the Devils. What we're going to really see if this team is fully back in the race, or if this is just a small little mirage like it's been kind of for the last couple of weeks.
And here's an underrated thing. I agree with pretty much everything you said about the Devils. I mean, it would be a great opportunity for this team to galvanize themselves and get a win somewhere they haven't been able to in a couple of years. But I know the results have not been great, but the last 5 games for the Penguins, they have been stacking points. They got a point against Colorado. They beat Carolina. They beat Columbus. They get a point against Columbus in the shootout loss. They get 2 points last night against the Rangers. And for the Penguins, yeah, you would like to see more of an extended winning streak. You would like to see them actually beat Columbus and hold on to that lead. You would have liked to see them hold on to the lead in Colorado. But in a moment where they keep telling us when they talk that they are not going to say they're done until they are mathematically eliminated, they are somewhat backing up what they are saying because they have been stacking points and steadily trying to climb. And if you can get a win tonight, even regardless of what happens with the Capitals, you're putting yourself in a position to, at the very least, fight until the end of the season. And I'm a huge believer in the only thing you can ask for in life and in sports is a chance. And right now, the Penguins still have that chance. But then you look at who the Devils could ice tonight. If they put in Capo Kakinen in net, I think this is a goalie the Penguins can take advantage of. Yeah, you have to throw out a lot of his stats from this season because he was on San Jose, and San Jose has been just terrible this season. But at the same time, he's been a pretty middle-of-the-road goaltender since he's been in the NHL. So the Penguins will have to take advantage of that.
Right, and that's if he starts. If they do go to Jake Allen, that's going to prove to be the tougher of the 2 goalies. And I don't think Allen has been that good for most of the season, but with the Devils, he has had quite a few pretty solid starts. I mean, you go back to some of his games last month in March, he was .946 against the Dallas Stars, .944 against the Golden Knights, .947 against the Penguins, .947 against the Jets. He was also .933 against the Maple Leafs, .912 against the Sabres. He had a .800 save percentage game in there where they got blasted by the Ottawa Senators, but he has had some really strong starts for the Devils since being acquired by the Canadiens. So he's found kind of the fountain of youth ever since being acquired by the Devils. So the Penguins are going to have to find a way to beat him in this one because he was great in that last meeting against him, made a couple of beautiful saves, especially on Crosby and Pettersson, where the Penguins were trying to get a big goal in that one. So they're going to have to get bodies in front to really take away his visibility and just make his life a living hell overall in this one. And I should correct, actually, Pat, Penguins are 0-6-1 in their last 7 against the Devils. That's how bad this has been the last several years.
I mean, that one is still a loss, regardless of where it happened. You still lost. But yeah, I mean, I want to see the same things I saw last night. I want to see them defend very hard. I want to see them keep the Devils to the outside. They owned the front of the net against the Rangers last night, which made Nedeljkovic's job a lot easier. I would love to see them do that again tonight, especially to maybe start and kickstart a bounce back for Tristan Jarry, especially against a young, talented team like the New Jersey Devils. That could be a huge galvanizing win for this team. And should they get that win, suddenly the rest of the week could mean quite a lot for the rest of this season. And we are going to get into that in the final segment. But before we do that, we got to tell you about our next sponsor, and that is Sleeper. We're coming down the home stretch of the season here, Penguins fans, and we know how it's gone. The Penguins are somehow still fighting for their playoff lives, despite being buried by us multiple times. But regardless of where the Penguins sit in the current standings, I want to remind you that you could win big by playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper, the official fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network. Sleeper is our number one choice for daily fantasy sports, especially daily fantasy hockey, because with Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. I know that I have told you guys before, I am not much of a season-long fantasy player. I kind of stink at it, but something like Sleeper is great for me because it's daily fantasy and I can check out the matchups that are happening that day. You can also play things like NFL, MLB, NBA, college football, and more on Sleeper. And all you have to do is pick whether studs like Crosby, McKinnon, McDavid, Ovechkin, you name it, will record more or less than their sleeper projections for things like goals, assists, saves, plus minus, and more in a given game. To 100 times bet on Sleeper, you need to correctly predict the outcome of 8 player stats. You heard me correctly, Penguins fans. You can win 100 times your money playing daily fantasy hockey with Sleeper. So start paying attention and nail your picks so you can win big. Use promo code LOCKEDONNHL and you'll get up to a $100 match for your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details and locational availability. All right, Penguins fans, welcome back to the Tuesday edition of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I'm Patrick Damp, as always, joined by Hunter Hodes. And should the Penguins find a way to exercise their devils in Newark tonight, all of a sudden, this week is a big one.
Are you a believer again if they win this game in New Jersey?
Dude, see, here's the thing. I said this last segment. I'm a huge believer in all you can ask for in life and in sports is a chance. And the Penguins, for all their faults, for as poorly as this season has gone, have given themselves a chance. Realistically, they should be dead. The way the power play has been underachieving and just genuinely awful all season long, they should not be where they are right now. They really should be at this point thinking about keeping the pick they sent in the Carlson trade and getting a top 10 pick at the entry draft this summer. But because of guys like Sidney Crosby, because of guys like Brian Rust, because of guys like Chris Letang, Evgeny Malkin, and a couple of others, this team refuses to die. And again, even if they somehow miraculously pull this off, I think they're cannon fodder for whoever they face in the first round. But at this point, we spent the first segment talking about the greatness of Sidney Crosby and how good he continues to be. Would it at all be shocking to you for one of his final acts? Because we don't know how much longer this is going to last. He's going to be 37 this summer. He's said multiple times he wants to play until he's about 40. So we may only get a couple more years of this. But would it not shock you if one of his final acts as captain of the Pittsburgh Penguins and one of the best players in the National Hockey League were to drag this husk of a team to the Stanley Cup playoffs?
Nothing will surprise me about this team anymore, and because this team has been so hilarious all season. Yeah, they probably need to win out to get in and probably get a little bit of help. I think at the very least you have to go 6-0-2, 7-0-1, and then get a little bit more help. But nothing will surprise me about these final 8 games. They could lose most of them and fall back in the standings and potentially keep that pick. That wouldn't surprise me. They could win out, finish within a point of getting into the playoffs. That wouldn't surprise me. They could also win out and sneak their way into the playoffs. That wouldn't surprise me, just because this season has been so unhinged overall. But Sid is trying to do everything in his power to will this team in. And I wouldn't be surprised again at all if we do see another massive performance from Crosby in this game, despite it being a back-to-back, and on Thursday against the Washington Capitals, a team that he has also tormented throughout his career as well. The Penguins do have an opportunity over these final 8 games to make it interesting. Outside of this game against the Devils, they play the Capitals on the road. That could be not only a big game for the Capitals, but a big game for the Penguins as well. And at the very least, the Penguins could be trying to play a little bit of spoiler for the Capitals, as they are more in the race right now compared to the Penguins. But a couple of their other games on the horizon as well. The Red Wings, who are very much in the race, and the Islanders, who are right now 2 points ahead of the Penguins. That's actually the final game of the regular season. So the opportunity is there for this team to get some regulation wins against teams they're chasing in the standings, but it has to start tonight against the Devils. If you have any hope of willing your way back into this race to where the Capitals are, to where the Red Wings are, to even where the Islanders are a little bit after their big win against the Flyers, or even the Flyers also, just because they got the point and they have 83 points right now, it has to keep going against the Devils after the way you played against the Rangers. It is honestly hilarious how this team, in the span of a week, can beat the Carolina Hurricanes and the New York Rangers but lose to the Columbus Blue Jackets. If that doesn't sum up the 2023-2024 Pittsburgh Penguins, that I don't know what does. And finally, this Eastern Conference playoff race for the wild card spot, the last one, it continues to be a massive joke. It's the Spider-Man meme. Oh, you want it. No, you want it. No, you want it. No, I want it. No, you want it. Nobody wants that final spot. And it's comical to see these teams rotate, win, loss, win, loss, win, loss. And then a couple of these teams are losing multiple games in a row. And that allows a team like the Penguins, who were once 9 points out just a few days ago, to be 5 points out again, with a chance to be 3 points out if a couple of things go their way on Tuesday night. This is just the most pathetic wildcard race I think I've ever seen.
As Jeff Merrick and Elliot Friedman continue to call it, it's a turtle race. But you look at the remaining schedule, and it is, if they want to do this, it's going to be Herculean, because you've got Tampa, who continues to be Tampa. They look like, again, they're a team that could do this in the Eastern Conference. You've got Toronto, who is looking more ready than ever to actually exercise some demons in the postseason this year, because that's a pretty good hockey team. The Red Wings have been up and down, but they remain in the race, and they have some serious talent. The Boston Bruins, my God, will you ever stop being one of the best teams in the league and the Eastern Conference? My God. And then the Preds, who have been the second half's best team, I think, outside of Colorado, and then the Islanders. So if you're going to do this, if they are going to do this, there are no nights off. There is no, and I don't mean that just because of where they are in the standings. They are playing teams that there is no, oh, this team's season's done. They're packing it in. They're ready to go. They're looking forward to next year. It's everybody who's got aspirations to not just go to the playoffs, but possibly win a Stanley Cup. So we will see. I mean, I think there's a very real chance they could make this a thing. I don't know if they're going to do it. I'm still extremely skeptical that they make the postseason. But at this point, I keep saying it, they have given themselves a chance, and that's all you can ask for. And we will see what happens. But that is going to do it for the Tuesday edition of the Locked On Penguins podcast. We will be back tomorrow to recap this game, let you know where the state of the race sits, and then get you ready for the rest of the week. But for now, it's Penguins and Devils tonight at 7 o'clock in Newark. Hunter and I will be back tomorrow. So for Hunter Hodes, I am Patrick Damp. Thank you, as always, for listening to the Locked On Penguins podcast, and we will talk to you on Wednesday.